am now recording. Hi, everyone. So my name is Professor Bates, and I'm going to be with you for managerial accounting. Some of you had me in principles of financial accounting, so you're familiar with the process and familiar with, how I move through things. So I just want to take a brief moment to kind of go through things with everybody else as to what to look for, just kind of go through the course module together and make sure everybody's aware of the resources that are available to them. In my accounting classes, I give you access to webinars that I have pre-recorded. So keep in mind when you're listening to these recorded webinars that are not the Q&A sessions, they are for the module themselves. Those were recorded in one of my earlier semesters. So I just reuse those because it goes through the same material, the same problems, things like that, so it's applicable, right? But I then do a weekly Q&A session, which is this session, where you can get on and ask questions about something that maybe I didn't cover in the webinar at that time, or maybe you're just not understanding and need me to walk it through in another way or something like that. So just, don't hesitate to ask questions. As those of you who have been with me before know, the other option that you have if you cannot attend the webinars because of work or some other commitment, that's fine. I record everything. If you have a question, go ahead and email it to me prior to the webinar, and I take all of the questions that I receive via email or text even, and I go through them on the webinar. So you can then go back through and watch the webinar, get your questions answered, and typically we address that. The only trick to that is that you have to get it to me before Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central Time so that I can answer it and get it on the webinar. So it kind of forces you to really, plan your time out, because that way you're going through the material and trying to get the homework done, or trying to work through the problems and just going ahead and addressing anything that you're not understanding. It kind of forces you to be proactive about that, which is good, because you'll see when we get to the midterm week and the finals week, I will encourage you to get an early start on those. You have access to the midterm and the final right now. You can go out and look at them if you'd like, so that you know what to look for, you know what's going to be on the test, and you know what you need to prepare yourself for. Okay, so there's no secrets, there's no surprises, it's all out there. It's up to you to take advantage of the resources that are available to you. One thing that I will tell you is that I am very open to people asking questions. If there's something you don't understand, you need to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, I cannot help you, okay? So don't be afraid. Don't feel like it's a dumb question or anything like that. Accounting is a difficult topic. It's a very difficult subject for a lot of people, and if you don't understand something, then there's probably one little component that you may have missed in either a previous section of this class or even a previous section of your introductory class, right? So just make sure that you're asking the questions that you need to ask, okay? I'm really easy to work with. I think, those that have had me before will tell you that, I try to help in any way that I can. I do expect a lot from you. I do expect you to do your work. I expect you to turn your assignments in on time. If there's like a medical emergency or, a child sick or something like that, on homework and quizzes, I can work with you. On midterms and finals, I cannot. So make sure you plan ahead and to expect the unexpected, okay? I I do expect that you're using that only when you absolutely have to, because again, it's not fair to everybody to have to turn their homework in on time and, you know, somebody else consistently late. I won't make exceptions for people who are always late. I won't. There is a 10% penalty if you are late, and that's no matter the excuse. I think that's fair. You know, so just try to plan ahead so that you're never late on an assignment. Make sure you're doing everything, and make sure that you are putting your best effort forward. You know, we're getting to that point where you're now in the second round of accounting. You should have a pretty good idea of how to form an income statement, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows, and how to do journal entries, right? So that was basically the first part of your financial accounting class, right? So I expect everyone to be turning their assignments in neatly, organized, and in the method that I have asked, which is, again, and everybody from the first class knows this, I only accept assignments in Excel. I will not accept them in Word or PowerPoint or anything else. It has to be done in Excel. Even if the problem is a written problem, just organize it in such a way that answer 1 is, you know, if it's A, put it in cell B2. If it's, you know, number 2, put in B3. Number 4, put in B5. So just make sure you organize your Excel files in such a way that it's all in one spreadsheet going down the spreadsheet, okay, because it makes it easy for me to grade, and it makes it easy for me to find your answers. Do not put it across the top of your spreadsheet, okay, or don't put them in random order all over the spreadsheet, okay. Just go straight down the first spreadsheet, okay, and put it all in one sheet, okay. Don't put one problem per spreadsheet and do multiple spreadsheets, okay, because when I go down and I grade things, I'm going to go down the spreadsheet and I'm going to put, you know, how many, especially on the exams, how many you missed from that problem, and you know, just keep on going down, and then at the bottom I do a sum, okay, and so that's the quick and easy way for me to grade it, okay. I do give partial credit on the exams and on the homework. Most of the time, as long as I see that you're putting forth a really good effort on your homework, you're going to get most, if not all, credit for it, okay? But I have to see that you're attempting to do the work and attempting to get it right, okay? Homework is kind of your practice time, right? It's your way of showing that you're getting the material, and your way of showing that, you know, you're putting forth the effort to try to learn it. Homework problems, so you will get the answers to those the day after they're due. Homework is always, always, always due on Thursday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. So make sure that I receive your email with your homework by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, or it will be considered late. So I check email date and timestamps, okay? So, and I do look at your homework to see if you've put forth your best effort and if you've gotten close on the answers. If you're off just a little bit, probably still give you credit. I may take off 1 or 2 points, but as long as you've put forth a really good effort and you've paid attention and done all of the problems for the homework assignment, you'll likely get a majority of your credit, okay? So again, homework is always due on Thursdays at 11:59 p.m. Central, with one exception, and that's in week 8. In week 8, the last week of class, we finish the class on Thursday. So homework that week is due Monday by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, okay? Quizzes are always due Sunday night by 11:59 p.m. Central Time. If you don't turn the quiz in on time, same thing applies. It will be considered late, and I will take off points for it being late. Okay? Every point counts in this class. You'll find out the midterm and the final are not easy. Okay? They will challenge you, but you can do it. And I've had people that have done extremely well on them if they did their work. Okay? So it's kind of a recurring theme. If you put the work in, you'll probably get an A in the class. Okay? So you have to do the work, though, and you have to ask questions when you don't understand something. I can walk you through any part of this, okay? And I can show you multiple ways to do it or to understand it. But I can't do it if I don't know you're missing something, okay? So like I tell my clients, I'm a NetSuite ERP consultant, and so I build ERP systems, which are enterprise resource planning systems, which basically do all of the accounting, the finance, the CRM, the e-commerce, supply chain management, logistics management, manufacturing, inventory, all of that stuff in one system. I build those and implement them for companies. Okay? So I tell all my customers, you know, they haven't come up with a clairvoyance module yet, which means I can't read minds. If you don't tell me you need something or that you need help, I can't help you, okay? So I'm here to help, you know, and I've been asked pretty much every question under the sun. So it's not like, you know, I'm not expecting to get questions, okay? That's why we have these webinars. If you have a question, let's bring it forward on the webinar so that everybody can kind of hear it and also learn from it as well. This is a learning community, and we want to be respectful and make sure that, you know, everybody's having the same opportunity to hear answers to questions that maybe they didn't even think of, you know, but maybe once it's posed, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I do need to know that, or I didn't understand that. Okay, so just be very open, open to learning together, and let's move forward to have a great class. Couple of things just to go through real quickly. You'll see announcements are always created here, and make sure you're going through and reading them. You know, I know the first one is pretty long, and the first few are a little bit longer, but I do post very important information in these announcements, and I also email them when I post them, okay? So any credit opportunities or anything else will come in the form of an announcement. So make sure you're reading those, okay? Make sure you're watching the webinars, okay? The first thing I'm going to ask you when you ask me a question, especially if I know I've answered it already on the webinar, is did you watch the webinar? And if the answer to that is no, you need to watch the webinar first, okay? So just be very respectful of your time, my time, you know, the class's time. Make sure you're doing your own due diligence and your own preparation ahead of time to take a look at the resources that are available to you. Let's talk about those resources real quick. Let's go into a module, okay? So you go into the modules, right, and you've got access to all the modules. They're all available, okay? So you've actually got the PowerPoint slides with voiceover. That is, let's see, these, okay? And you'll see this little speaker here in the center. If you click on that and you click this play button.
Welcome to Accounting 230, Managerial Accounting.
You'll see that they have a voiceover as well. So there's kind of a lecture involved with the PowerPoints. So make sure you're going through those and listening to those, okay? Homework solutions, as I said, are posted the morning after the homework is due. So this one will be posted October 28th at 8:30 a.m. So once the homework is turned in on Thursday nights, on Friday morning at 8:30, you have access to the answers. It is your responsibility to go through and compare what you did in your homework to what the correct answers are and to learn from what you missed, okay? So you need to go in and take a look at those at all times and make sure you're kind of reworking and understanding what you did wrong. That will help you tremendously on the midterm and the final, okay? People that go through and take the time to do that have much less trouble on that midterm and on the final, and it takes them a lot less time if you're doing it each week instead of waiting until the week of the midterm or the week of the final to try to do that, okay? So just be proactive and do it each week. You know, take 20, 30 minutes to just kind of review and do that sort of thing when the answers become available, okay? So that's a very good practice. Takes a lot less time if you do it weekly, okay? Then you've got the Module 1 quiz. These are all true-false questions. So just go ahead and make sure you use either Chrome or Firefox. They are not timed, but you do have to do them in one sitting. Once you leave or exit them, it's all done, okay? You're graded immediately, okay? Then you have this Module 1 study guide, which is actually a Word document that I've prepared for you, and you'll have each one of these, okay? These study guides actually are the questions on the quiz in a different way of wording them. So I've reworded each one of the questions on the quiz, okay, to basically make you go out and look them up in your book and get your answers, make sure you understand what, you know, the topic is talking about, okay? So you go out and you look it up in your book, and then if you write this down and prepare this and everything, when you go through the quiz, should be a breeze. You should know the answers and everything should be quite easy, okay? Then the Module 1 webinar, okay? So in every module, you're going to have a webinar. Again, this is the webinar that was recorded in the past. There will be another Module 1 Q&A webinar that I load after we get done recording this one, okay? So you'll see 2 webinars. One is the long one, and they are long. They go for quite a while, okay? So I think the longest one is like 2 hours. But it goes through all the problems. I walk you through how to do the problems. I talk about the topics in the chapters, explain them, you know, kind of give you a better idea of what you should be looking for and what you should be studying. But the biggest part is I walk you through how to do the homework problems, okay? So those are invaluable to you. Use them. Okay, make sure you've watched that webinar and you've watched the Q&A if you're going to ask me questions after the time we have the Q&A. Okay, because between the 2 of them, I've typically answered just about anything that you may not understand. I expect that there will be some questions other than that, and go ahead and ask those. But at the same time, I want to make sure you're watching the webinars prior to asking questions. Okay, because I think it will help you better prepare and understand, you know, what are you truly missing, okay? When you ask me a question, okay, let's talk about question asking. Don't just say, I don't understand it. That doesn't tell me what you don't understand, okay? Go through and be very specific about your question. You know, on problem, you know, 1-A, okay? I don't understand how to get the variance between X and Y or whatever, okay? Or why when you're working this problem do you come out with this answer? You know, I thought it should be done this way with step 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if you give me what your thought process is, and you give me what it is you're missing, the component that you're missing, I can pinpoint exactly for you what the problem is, what you're missing, and help you to understand it much quicker. Okay, so just learn to be very specific about your questions, and do this in any class. Okay, you need to be very specific and really let us know what it is that you don't understand. Don't just say, I don't understand, because that doesn't tell me anything, right? Okay, so use all of these resources in each module to your advantage. Okay, make sure you've read the syllabus, right? So here's the syllabus. Again, I expect all homework and exams to be done in Excel. The quizzes, obviously, you take in Blackboard. Okay, but all homework and all exams done in Excel. I will not accept any other format. If you send it to me in a different format, I will send it back to you and say put it in Excel. Okay? The reason I do that, in the business world, you have to know how to use Excel. Okay? There is not a company out there that doesn't use Excel, that doesn't use spreadsheets of some sort. Okay? Maybe a small mom and pop, but in a company, in any organization, any corporation that you may pursue getting hired on at is using Excel in some way, shape, or form in every single department, not just accounting, but in HR, in logistics, in supply and operations. They're all using Excel. Okay? I haven't worked for an organization that doesn't use it. Okay? So that's why I make sure that you're doing all of your work in my class in Excel. Because if you can do formulas and you can begin to understand that level of use, then it's only going to benefit you in getting a job when you finish your degree. Okay, so you can say, yes, I know how to use Excel. Yes, I have Excel experience. Okay, so make sure you're making the commitment to yourself to learn that. Okay, and there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that can teach you anything you ever wanted to know about Excel. Okay, so that is basically everything you need to know about the course right now. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's Cassie. Can everybody hear me, or I'm not sure how that works?
Yeah, everybody can hear you. You're on.
Okay. Sort of a dumb question, I think. Yep. Because, sorry, I was so confused with the webinar thing. I get it now, what you're saying about the pre-recorded. And so in the pre-recorded one, which, by the way, I didn't have the opportunity to finish yet, it said that the first homework assignment was due Friday, but that was pre-recorded for a previous class. So ours is actually still due Thursday, correct?
Exactly. So pay note when you're listening to the pre-recorded webinars, and Cassie, that's a great question because it does come up. When you're listening to pre-recorded webinars, pay no attention to the dates in those webinars because we were on different calendar, we were in a different semester, things like that. So don't listen to the dates in those webinars. Any date that I have told you in this webinar or in the current Q&A sessions are going to be the valid dates, okay? So again, throughout this class, and I keep it very simple and straightforward, I'm not going to change dates on you, okay? All homework is always going to be due on Thursday by 11:59 p.m. Central, okay? And all quizzes are always going to be due on Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Central. The only exception to that is in week 8. In week 8, okay, homework is due on Monday, quiz and a final are due on Thursday. Okay? So yes, that's an excellent question. And yes, you will hear me talking about dates and things like that in those pre-recorded webinars because it's a product of doing these webinars. People ask questions about that. So yeah, don't pay attention to the dates in the pre-recorded ones. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, don't mean to confuse you.
No, I'm good. I'm much better now than I was before. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good, good. What other questions do you have? Kim, did I cover it all? Is there anything that they should know? Any surprises or anything? Kim was with me in Principles of Financial. Okay. She thinks I covered it all. Don't have.
Let's see that. I just wanted to say I appreciate you being so helpful, because I personally struggled with the first accounting class. I'd never taken an accounting class before ever, and it took me a while to catch on, and so I will probably be asking a lot of questions.
That is perfectly fine. That's what I want. And just understand, like I told my principles class, and I always do, you know, accounting is kind of like a puzzle or a game of organization. You know, the biggest thing that you can, when you're looking at these problems and you're looking at the way everything's done, it's literally a system of organization. So basically, you know, you have your three financial statements: income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, and you do have the statement of stockholders' equity, but, you know, so 4 financial statements. But the 3 that you mainly deal with are those: income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, right? So those are the 3 you're primarily dealing with. Everything that goes into those is a puzzle. So if there's something on the income statement, there's a journal entry that says there's probably also something on the balance sheet for that. So again, you know, like for instance, revenue or sales offsets to AR, to accounts receivable, right? Expenses offset to accounts payable or cash, whichever they're going out of, right? So, you know, you just have to kind of look at that and see, you know, there's always an offset, and where does it belong? There's a system of organization. Same thing goes with managerial accounting. It's kind of one of those puzzle pieces of, okay, you know, if I have to figure out, you know, cost of something, you know, how do the numbers work together, right? So there are formulas involved, yes, but don't let the word formula confuse you, okay? Don't let it intimidate you. It's a puzzle. Each piece has its own part in the puzzle, right? So it's just, that's really what accounting is. It's just a system of organization so that there's a logical flow to the numbers, right? It's nothing. I mean, the hardest part of the math is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's all it is throughout the entire thing. It's just knowing the terminology and where those pieces fit, right? So, and don't let terminology confuse you either, because everybody calls stuff something different. Like, you can work for a company that calls sales revenue, and vice versa. You can work for a company that calls revenue sales. It's a naming convention. I've created probably 20 to 30, no, more than that, probably closer to 40 different charts of accounts, okay? And each and every chart of account that I've created for companies has been different. Different naming convention, different numbering convention, if they number, which I almost don't let them anymore, not number, because that's just crazy. But, you know, it's just naming and numbering. That's all it is. You know, so, but everybody calls something different, you know. Somebody might call it utilities expense, whereas somebody else calls it electric, you know, electric expense. Yeah. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff. You know, the book is going to do it to you too. They're going to explain it to you and tell you what it is based on the terminology, and then they're going to throw a problem in there that calls it something different. The one that threw everybody off in the last class was, Kim, what was it, the holding account? think. The draw, yeah, the drawing account. All that is basically a account that, say, the owner of a company draws from. So like they could draw their salary from it. They could take a draw to pay themselves back for the investment that they've made in the company. That's all it is. But that account alone threw everybody off as to what it was.
I can understand that because taking my first accounting class, I can remember getting to the homework problems and there being different terminology, and I was like, okay, now what's going on? So it took, it took me a while to catch on to that, and I will say I was glad when it was over. So now I'm going to learn some more, I guess.
I hope you won't feel that way after my I hope you're intrigued and you have that inquisitive mindset. Kim thinks you'll like my class a lot better. That's what
I saw that, and I actually I think I will too, only because I already liked the webinar and the question and answer thing. I didn't have that available in my prior class, and I can't remember the actually the slides, the PowerPoint slides, the voiceover on that sounds like my previous teacher from my first accounting class, and he was very nice, but we didn't do webinars.
Right.
So I think this will be useful and beneficial.
Yeah, not everybody does them. I'm just one of those technology nuts. So to give you a little background on me, I know Kim's probably heard this, and she says it definitely helps and wishes all online classes were this way. I've suggested that, by the way. So my day job, I teach at McKendree part-time, and I have since 2010. I've been doing this for quite a while. And I've taught at Kaskaskia as well and Lindenwood. Okay. My day job right now is I'm an ERP consultant, a NetSuite consultant for a company that's based out of Laguna Hills, California. I work 100% remotely and love it. Obviously, I don't have to leave the comfort of my pajamas if I don't want to. And I work with clients all over the world to implement NetSuite, which is a cloud-based ERP system. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, and it's the system that runs all companies. It does everything in one system. It's the accounting, the finance, the reporting, the dashboarding, the logistics, the sales, the CRM, marketing, automation, e-commerce, support, inventory management, supply chain management. It does everything, literally, that a company would have to do, okay? And it runs some very large companies. NetSuite themselves is the fastest cloud-based ERP, fastest growing cloud-based ERP system in the world. It was recently bought by Oracle. And there's a funny story behind that is the guy that actually wrote NetSuite got his start at Oracle and worked under the guy that still runs Oracle and owns, or it doesn't own Oracle, but still runs Oracle. And he and the other guy that wrote and heads up Salesforce both got their start at Oracle. Both of them got upset and wanted to build their own system, so they branched off and went their opposite ways, kind of like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs did. And so they kind of branched off and went their own ways, and now Oracle is buying what Evan Goldberg wrote, because he wanted cloud-based and he believed cloud was the way to go. And so now Oracle is buying it back because they need a cloud-based system, because they found that cloud-based ERPs are kind of the wave, like everybody thought it would be, the wave of the future. You don't have all of the on-premise systems and everything else. Everything's done in the cloud. It's literally done online. You go into Chrome, you open up NetSuite, everything's there. Processes are very automated, You know, so that's what I do. I build that system and implement it for companies. There's a lot that goes into that. You know, and then I teach for McKendree, and the kicker is I'm also a doctoral student myself because I love teaching and would love to do this on a full-time basis, but to teach college, you have to have your doctorate. You have to have either a PhD or DBA. So I'm pursuing my DBA. I'm almost there. I'm getting ready to start my dissertation phase.
Wow.
Yeah, and my dissertation is actually going to be on change management critical success factors of successful ERP implementations in U.S. public companies. So I'm kind of a technology nerd. That's why you get webinars. So I do webinars every day with my clients, and it's a great way to manage it and demo things and be able to show you things and stuff like that. So you'll find that I'm a big fan of them. So that's one of the reasons I do it, and it seems to help everybody. You know, that's had my classes says that they love them, and that's usually the strongest point of feedback on my evaluations is, you know, they love the webinars. So I keep doing them. Why fix with?
Good. Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, good. So next week, Tuesday, come with questions for Module 2. And if you have, it's also open game on the previous modules. So if there's something that, you know, after you do the homework and you don't understand it, come prepared with those questions as well. Okay, so once you see the answers, if you don't understand how we got to that answer, you know, come with that question as well. So I'm open to, you know, any questions that you have regarding any of the stuff we're covering, or if you're not clear on a due date or something, or something that I'm expecting, just let me know. I answer all those questions at once. And it also kind of saves me from getting blasted with, you know, 20 different emails a day. So hopefully it's a good way for all of us to manage and make sure that we have the information we need to get those assignments turned in on time and everybody to be successful. I promise you, if you hang with me and get your homework turned in on time and do the work and put in the effort, those people that do that and really put forth their best effort, I haven't seen anybody get below a B. But you got to ask questions. So.
I will.
Okay.
I will definitely ask questions. Yes.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions? Brianna, Kim? No. No. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, you guys let me know if you come up with anything between now and the next webinar. Also, very happy to answer questions via email. So don't think you have to, you know, just ask on here. I'm available. Best way to contact me is, here's my contact information in the instructor section. Okay. That's my email address for McKendree. And this work phone is actually my cell phone. I do text. So if you want to text me, if that's quicker and easier, go ahead. If you call me during the day from like 8 to 5, sometimes 6, I may not be able to answer because I'm typically on nonstop client calls. Okay? So text and email are the two quickest ways to get a hold of me. I will answer you within 24 hours. Okay? If you text or email me at 10:30 or later at night, you're likely not going to get an answer until the next day. So don't wait until 10:30 to ask me how to do something on the night your homework's due. Okay? I know I shouldn't have to state the obvious, but you would be surprised how that happens. Okay? All right, everybody. Look forward to a great class. I know you guys are going to do a lot of good work, You know, my classes always do. So looking forward to it. Let's have a great managerial accounting session and continue to build those accounting skills and hopefully turn out some new accounting majors maybe. I'm hopeful. Okay. Alrighty. You guys have a good night, and I will talk to you next week at the same time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great one. Bye-bye.